gathering type thing on Wednesdays. And it was it was a great brain teaser for me because it would basically involve people asking about things. And we would maybe study, maybe talk about them, etc. People would bring lunch. People are welcome to bring lunch to this too, by the way. Um, but we were doing that, and it was okay. It was all right. But we it dropped off of attendance. Not that many people were coming, and so we stopped doing it. Now I know that there's a lot of demand, a lot of interest with this group and with some people who couldn't be here today, but will be interested once we properly advertise. That and people who will catch up by watching, like we're streaming now on YouTube, people who watch the video on demand after the fact. There was a lot of demand for different types of learning. We do a lot of learning here at Temple Beth Shalom, but we wanted different kinds of learning, and specifically Kohelet. It has come up a lot, and we wanted to start there. And so I thought doing a class on Wednesdays, having an opportunity for midweek Torah study, would be a benefit for the congregation. And as long as we keep getting people, we'll keep doing it. If this group again, if it turns into one solid group and that group decides they'd rather do it every other week instead of every week, it's too onerous. I completely understand. We can change that. We do other classes biweekly. We could is that the right term? Is it biweekly or is it?
I think so.
I don't know. I never remember whether biweekly is. Oh, hey, we got somebody else. So bi-week, yeah, I never know. Anyway, that's a pedantic thing to talk about on stream, as the kids say. I really shouldn't decide what the kids say. And with that, we're going to begin. Here we are in Kohelet, chapter 1, verse 1. We'll begin, as we always do, with our blessing for the study of Torah that ends La'asok b'divrei Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. If you say Amen, you get full credit, and we are ready to go, and we have a very interesting line even to begin with.
It's a different book.
It's a very specific book. But
I have my own, but we have the same one that appears here.
Yeah, that's the brown GPS is.
I have only one complaint. The print is just a tad small for me.
It is a very small printed book.
I have a magnifying glass.
Oh, this is an interesting thing. So we do have the words, or they are up on the screen if you want to.
Okay.
So and they're being shared online as well. Yes, it's true. We have a lot of Torahs here. We don't have a lot of Tanakhs in the room.
Yeah.
And because of that, we don't have a lot of books with the text of Kohelet on it, but we do have it here on the screen for us. So we start Divrei Kohelet, Ben David, Melech v'Yerushalayim. So Kohelet is a book of the wisdom literature. It is in the Ketuvim, the last part of the Tanakh. It's the Ch part, it's the Ketuvim, it's the writings. And so Kohelet, or Ecclesiastes, is one of these books. And so it could be, some of them can be a little hard at first to put into their context, especially their context in time. Here we start with Divrei Kohelet. So like Divrei, like in the sense of these are the words of, or just these are the times, these are the, these are the things, this is what happened, relating to Kohelet, which is weird because Kohelet is a girl's name, of course. Kohelet ends with the tav, so it's a feminine name, but it says Kohelet ben David,
Son of David.
Right, so son of David. So we have a Kohelet who's a son of David.
Who knew David had a transgender child?
Now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well,
Couldn't help myself.
think if we were to interrogate that to the end, it probably makes the opposite point you're making. But in any event, we won't do that. And we'll look at the fact that it is interesting that it's that. Why might it be? So obviously, who is the famous wise son of David? Solomon, Shlomo, who did succeed his son, his father David as king in Jerusalem. So we believe that that Kohelet is a pen name.
Oh,
And of course, why might it be Kohelet? And indeed, why might the name be feminine? When Solomon, sorry, Lauren, is not claiming to be transgender. He's not claiming to be a woman. But why is it a feminine name, and what is the reason for the name?
Could refer to
Our Hebrew students would probably be best at this because they'll know the root of Kohelet. Perhaps. Those who are in adult Hebrew.
Kol, the voice.
No, Kahel.
Kahel.
So Kahel is, in this case, is to gather. Kind of like a gathering or a community is a kehilah, right?
Yeah.
So it's a similar, it's the same root. And Kahel means to gather. So what did Solomon gather? He had gathered all of the wisdom. He gathered all the wisdom into his big brain. And what is wisdom? Those of you who also study Kabbalah will have a good understanding here. What is wisdom? Okay, Chokhmah. I'm looking for a different. I'm calling it different, but yes, Chokhmah. Bina is what I'm looking for.
Bina is understanding.
Okay, well, I'm talking about discernment, right? Understanding. I'm saying Bina is what he's got, right? It's probably he's got both, but he's got all of it. Again, he gathered it all in his brain. But but in any event, these are both feminine words, and they're conceptually feminine. Knowledge, wisdom is conceptually feminine. This is not unique to ancient Judaism, by the way. The Greeks had who as the goddess of wisdom? Athena. So wisdom was also feminine coded in the Greek tradition. So just like that, in the Jewish tradition, wisdom is feminine coded. Hence why he takes a feminine sounding name here in this opening. Labels himself Kohelet.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
Is this also a reference to Shekinah, which is the presence of God?
I don't think so.
Okay.
This, I think, has nothing to do with
Because
because but he's not talking about God here. He's talking about himself.
Oh,
And another example of this root comes in nichalu, which means and they gathered or we gathered to hear, meaning that many people would gather to hear the wise words of Solomon, son of David. Okay, so it only took us 10 minutes to get through the first verse. No, it's okay. I'm just kidding. We want to take our time with it because again, there's only so much of Kohelet, and we don't want to waste any of it. But we have another very difficult verse, the second one, because he's so wise. He fits a lot into every verse. Havel havalim amar Kohelet. Havel havalim hakol havel. It's important to see this in Hebrew because there's an art to the words. You can even almost hear it. So Havel Havalim. The translation here is utter futility. What is Hevel? If you look at the words in the book, you're probably going to be wrong, just as a warning.
You said like the mist?
Yeah. Okay, so Lauren remembers I've taught this before, but not for Kohelet. So Hevel literally means vapor. Vapor being like a brief mist that quickly dissipates to nothingness. So when he says Havel Havalim Hakol Havel, when he's saying it's not utter futility. That phrase doesn't help us, I don't think,
Mhm.
understand what he's getting at. He's saying that everything in life is like hevel, is like vapor. Life itself, it appears to exist, but just as quickly as it appears to exist, it's gone. Right? Again, here in wisdom literature, you're going to have Kohelet essentially go into, well, we'll get to the crux of the book in the next line, essentially. He's setting out his case here for the condition of the world as he finds it. He sees himself essentially setting down this book as an extremely wise person reflecting on what life is, right? Um, the note here says Kohelet characterizes all reality as lacking substance and significance. Again, that's a very, I think that's almost an academic way of saying what I'm trying to articulate to you, which is just that everything is temporary.
Yeah.
Um,
Isn't true. A mist is a substance, but it doesn't stay very long.
right, and it quickly returns to the state of natural air.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Continuing in verse 3, Ma yitron la'adam b'chol amalo sheya'amol tachat hashemesh. What yitron, which comes from the same like solution, like what is the gained essence? What is the real value? It says here for a human being, la adam, or for humanity. It says here, in all the ways they grow themselves, in all the toils, um, and in this, it says Rashbam's note insists that the translation should be in all the gains. So, of course, you toil because what? You grow things, you make things. It's a gain, like you're doing something for something. But even doing that, you did something for something. What is the net? What is the impact? What is the real impact?
Can I argue with this wise man?
No, of course you can. But you can, but the Steinsaltz notes is many events transpire here, but none of them is significant. Moreover, even when a matter of significance transpires or a valuable item is discovered, it soon vanishes without a trace. At times, the one responsible for the event or the discovery ultimately realizes its futility himself, while at other times only future generations will arrive at that realization. Yeah.
Okay, at an easy surface level, it's easy to agree with him.
Sure.
All the wealth, all the fame, what real value is in that? On the other hand, couldn't one argue two things? That in terms of the development of the world, and especially if you believe that God has a plan for the world, maybe what you do and what you accomplish leaves the world better off and progressing. And on a similar note, individually, is there such a thing as soul growth, as spiritual growth? And so maybe how we work and what we do in the world contributes to our own soul or spiritual growth, if there is such a thing.
I think I agree with you, and I think Kohelet actually agrees with you. But so the rabbis will say, for like, of course, there's the story we have of, of Honi going to sleep and waking up, somebody planting a carob tree and him saying, "You're really dumb for planting the carob tree because you're like 90 years old and you're never going to get to eat of the carob tree because it takes like 40 years to grow." And he says, "Okay, like that's fine. My grandchildren will eat from it, and others will eat from it." And sure enough, Honey goes to sleep and he wakes up and it's 40 years later, and the guy's son and grandkid or whatever, are going to eat of the carob tree. So I think the rabbis agree that there's certainly, it's not that there's no purpose in this is the problem. We're going verse by verse, and that's great. He's gonna narrow slightly to the life of a human being and exactly what oh, we've got dog stuff. Hello. Um, in any event. Um, sorry, okay. Okay. So in all the gains they make beneath the sun, I'm gonna go a little bit to get us through, and we'll come back and we'll look. Okay. So one generation goes, another comes, but the earth remains the same forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and glides back to where it rises. Southward blowing, turning northward, ever turning blows the wind. On its rounds the wind returns. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place from which they flow, the streams flow back again. All such things are wearisome. No one can ever state them. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear enough of hearing. Only that shall happen, that has happened, only that occur, that has occurred. There is nothing new beneath the sun. Sometimes there is a phenomenon of which they say, look, this one is new. It occurred long since, in ages that went by before us. The earlier ones are not remembered, so too those that will occur later will no more be remembered than those that will occur at the very end. I, Kohelet, was king in Jerusalem over Israel. I set my mind to study and to probe with wisdom all that happens under the sun, an unhappy business, that which God gave mortals to be concerned with. I observed all the happenings beneath the sun, and I found that all is hevel and pursuit of wind, a twisted thing that cannot be made straight, a lack, a deficiency that cannot be restored. I said to myself, here I have grown richer and wiser than any who ruled before me over Jerusalem, and my mind has zealously absorbed wisdom and learning. And so I set my mind to appraise wisdom and to appraise madness and folly, and I learned that this too was the pursuit of wind, in this case, ruach, spirit also, but wind in this case. In other words, can you chase the wind? Is there any purpose to that? No, that would be insane. For as wisdom grows, vexation grows. To increase learning is to increase heartache. So now let's go back, because we had to get the rest of his introduction, I think. He's essentially, chapter 1 is him laying out, this is why this book exists. It exists because I set out with all of my great riches and successes in war and learning, especially, and knowledge. I set out to say, what is the human condition? What impact do we have upon the world? What would be best for human beings? He gives us a poem. He says, sometimes something appears new, but it's not really. Really, it's just something we forgot about that happened 1,000 years ago or something. What do you think? Where do you want to start? The earlier ones are not remembered, so too those that will occur later will no more be remembered than those that will occur at the very end. Right. And again, that latter bit is saying, well, some people will say yes, yes, yes. A long time ago, they didn't have records and things, but now we do, so we'll be remembered. And Kohelet says, you're not thinking civilizationally. You're thinking in the lifespan of a human being, or of a few generations of human beings. And Kohelet's like, I'm seeing 3,000 years from now that the Jews are going to be sitting in Topeka, still talking about this stuff.
I won't argue so much that point that everything recurs. I don't know. Maybe he's right. But he seems to be saying, he is saying, all is futile, all is vanity. Nothing that you can do amounts to anything. And I would argue with him on that basis. I think what we do does matter. I think it matters whether you and I are loving, humanitarian, good people, or whether we're evil and destructive people.
He's not saying it doesn't matter necessarily. And again, I would say he's not saying it morally doesn't matter. I think he's pointing out that this is a bad, humanity in its current form has kind of a bad deal. Like it's not that fun to be a human.
Agreed.
He's like, there's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a big difference on anything. Now, again, we're living in a time, it's easy for us to also say, well, Kohelet didn't know about the technological revolution, and soon we're going to have robots in our houses, and you can take a shot to lose weight, and like all kinds of, like, he didn't have any idea about any of this. You could say, although I would go back with his point being, none of that actually changes the human condition. Right?
Correct.
No matter how many comforts, and that's what he's saying. He's saying, Ani Kohelet, Melech b'Yerushalayim. I was king in Jerusalem, and I had everything and all the knowledge, and still, I got hot. I sweated. I was stressed. I got hungry. Like, right? Like, he's like, there is no way to overcome that. And anything you do that is designed to overcome it is doomed to be heva. You think you'll make a difference in the overall situation of the mass of humanity, but that actually won't. Because the job of a human being is still to what? To toil, to try and build something for themselves, to eat and make sure they have sustenance. And then he will talk about, this is a very dark, the first chapter, yes. He's going to talk a little bit about, but what is good in the world? And the good things in the world are just as true as the toil and the bad things are.
Okay.
And he will suggest perhaps we should focus more on those than we do on, he would be a big critic of type A work culture.
Yeah.
Kohelet would be. He would hate the way I do my job. Because he'd be like, why do you go do all these other things? You write things, but nobody's going to care about what you write. 1,000 years from now, it's not going to be matter. Why don't you go and have a good meal or something and do some mitzvot and have a good time? Like that's what Kohelet would probably say back to me. Now, I would say I am trying to do certain things in the world to shape opinion and among my people and the general community so that things will be good for us in these times, because we are people who live in these times. I don't stop doing them because I agree with Kohelet on some things, even though he would criticize me.
And
do you see?
Yeah. And if I take the medical model, have not some doctors made the world after them better? Does not a peacemaker, if he's successful, improve the world?
Well, I think you would say the peacemaker probably not, because they'll just go back to war again later. He's like, in 2,000 years, they'll be at war and not remember that they were at peace. Or the vice, like, again, he would take the long view and say that, no, peacemaker, no. Individual doctors also probably mostly like, okay, you saved a couple people and like, that's great. But like, did you save everybody? Like, but again, he's not saying it because you shouldn't save people. Yeah. He's not saying it because you should operate in such a world that everything is black and white and you should just be like, well, if I didn't save the whole world, I shouldn't do anything. But he's asking you to look at the condition and accept futility. That while you will make a difference on the small, look at the scope of humanity, and we like to imagine it's like a right? The old metaphor, I think it was King, the mark of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice, right? That it's a slight bend. If you get really in there, you'll see that things kind of go like this, right? But when you zoom really far out, it just looks smooth. Kohelet is asking you to look at the smoothness and not at the jaggedness. You're looking at the jaggedness, and that's fine. That's what we're bound to do as human beings who are bound to a specific lifetime. But Kohelet isn't doing that. And so you want like he wants you to understand where he's at. And where he's at is on a different scale. Than yeah.
Interject.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. What I hear
Yeah.
is not the material. I think it's more people's perception in every age. So when the wheel was invented, it was considered a great breakthrough. Now electric cars are a great breakthrough, except I remember as a kid, they had electric trucks for delivery.
Yeah.
They hadn't built them for years, but the things lasted forever and they looked like buggies with a tiller.
Sure. And yes, absolutely. And right. I think he would say by the time he's alive, nothing is new, is his general belief on that.
Well, what I'm saying is in every generation, we look at the material and say, this is new. So we say, oh my God, medicine can do heart transplants and kidney transplants. What a breakthrough. Is it really okay? So 100 years ago, when the Supreme Court ruled that we had to, 120 years ago, that laws that said you had to have inoculations for smallpox were the right thing and could be enforced. And we said, wow, that's great. And when in the 60s and 70s, we were able to say the last case in Pakistan is gone. Smallpox is wiped out. And all of a sudden, AIDS, monkeypox, whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, so the truth is that, yes, the material thing we were talking about was conquered, but the cycle and the perception, we push down one thing and then we say, oh, there's other stuff out here.
if it's the long view, medicine never defeats death. It helps through the little bumps.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that Kohelet would say don't do or learn more about medicine or the body because who cares? That's not what Kohelet is saying. But simply, yes, to see the cycle as you're seeing it, to zoom out and to understand, because again, it comes down here, his last line here in this chapter, we've got Ki berov chokhmah, because with great wisdom, rov ka'as, comes great anger. Why? Because the more you know, the more you understand the world, you both develop a sense of how the world should be and an anger that the world does not conform to your, to the wisdom that you understand and how the world should operate.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it's in the time of Solomon and you're like, why can't these people understand that these praying to random statues isn't going to bring them rain? To the Romans and being like, basically the same thing. To today and all this, why can't people see that vaccines are good? Or why can't people see that schools should be funded by X? And why can't people see that we need, the same thing over and over again? So yeah.
Isn't his argument an argument against the whole thought of the coming of the Messiah, that things will get better?
No.
Or is he saying that humankind can't make it better? God will make it.
First of all, I think he's saying you can morally improve society without obsessing over wisdom and like I think here he's specifically, again, he's not saying you shouldn't do mitzvot and do good things so that the Mashiach comes. To be fair, he's not thinking about Mashiach so much. But like I think he would agree with that. It's not that you shouldn't do good things. He's gonna say do good things shortly.
Okay, I'm gonna be.
No, it's okay. No, he's gonna tell you to do good things. Which the rabbis are going to interpret to mean do mitzvot, and the rest of us can interpret to mean whatever we want, whether it's just, but right, and he also says to increase in learning the Yosef, like asaf, like to gather, and to gather da'at, knowledge, Yosef micha'av is to gather pain. Right?
Mhm.
He's saying something that became an idiom in English long, long after he was dead. Ignorance is bliss. He's saying, if only we were ignorant, we would be happy. We wouldn't get angry and be upset all the time. That's not really an option for him. He's Kohelet. He's Solomon. He's super wise. But for most people, he's saying they have a choice, and it can be uncomfortable for you to take his choice, but that's what he's saying. Yeah.
Well, the question is, yes, and you can find terrible things that happen, and the more you know. What if you include in wisdom acceptance, and it is God's plan, and you learn to enjoy it?
Well, again, he's not talking about wisdom here. He said da'at. The first one's wisdom. As wisdom grows, anger grows. The second one is da'at. So the pain part is more. It might be pedantic, but I'm making a differentiation based on,
Well, the more you know, the more
what you
pain
know versus how wise your discernment. Wisdom is more associated with discernment than knowledge, which knowledge is more like just what you know, how much you know,
Wisdom, if you simply learn to accept what God had done and not expect it to go to what you wish.
Sure, if that's how you see wisdom, then that would be great. I can only assume that he's saying something different.
Yeah.
That he's defining it differently, because he would have said that if he was, if he was. No, it's just so yeah. I mean, right. So you get it though. That you deep down, I think we all understands this. The more discernment we have, the more things about the world anger us because they're not as they should be. The more we understand how bad things are, the more we know about life and how bad things can get, the sadder we are about, the more pain you have. Which, to be fair, I mean, some of you here are doctors and whatnot. Like, I mean, that there are, if you're a doctor who's like whatever. I mean, not that there are some doctors who deal with a lot of heartbreak because they see a lot more of the worst of things, and there are some like primary care doctors who maybe see less of that, but they see more of like the mundane, the life stuff. I mean, it can be different, I think.
As an example, we thought using coal and oil was a good thing because we weren't killing whales. And now, as we understand more, it has its downside big time.
Probably not for the whales. Is it done? Right, yeah, right.
Whales, but maybe for the earth.
Maybe, who knows? Are there too many whales now? Do we have too many whales? I can't believe we went from saving the whales to having too many whales. That would be truly remarkable.
But they are.
Although, if you need me to find out what whale tastes like, I'm willing to. Only assuming they're not endangered anymore, of course.
Have to go to Japan.
Yeah, I know. Whales and dolphins, they hate them. I know. They hate them so much. Sorry, internet. I know. I shouldn't generalize. I'm sure they don't hate them really. Anyway, okay, we'll take a look. We'll move into chapter 2. I said to myself, Amarti ani belibi. I said, hey, in my heart, Lechana, please come, Anascha besimcha, Ur'e v'tov. So come. I said to myself, hey, you're a king. Let's have a good time. I said to my own body, I'm going to treat you to some merriment. We're going to have some fun. I'm going to pour some wine for you. You can see what is good in the world. See goodness. V'tov, right? See the goodness in everything. Vehine gam hu hevel, right? This too, I found, was vapor, was futility, right? So I was like, okay, I'm a king. I'll have all the good stuff and enjoy wine and pleasure and all that. But that does nothing to resolve the questions of life. Therefore, it fails to calm the soul, right? Just engaging in frivolousness isn't going to make you happy. But he just said accumulating knowledge will make you unhappy. And now he says it will not make you happy to just sit around and enjoy things. Well, I can't sit around and enjoy things. I can't work myself. I can't work on stuff. Of revelry, I said, it's mad. Or it's debauchery. And of simcha, of joy, I said, mazo asa, osa. What does this do? Right? What are we making with this? What are we achieving? What is its purpose? The attempt to live a life of pleasure gradually loses its appeal. People can host a party or two, drink wine, and attempt to rejoice, but over time they begin to question the ultimate objective of their laughter and merriment. Right? Even having a good time gets old, is what Kohelet has found, right? He had time to do all of that. He was like, okay, I tried to just satisfy myself with no more wisdom, I'm going to have a good time. But that wasn't satisfying either. So in the search of how to live a good life, which is really what he's after here, how to live a life where your soul doesn't torment you. Now, if you don't know what that's like, then you're very lucky. I think I'm very lucky also, to be fair. Not in that I also don't feel that. But there are people, maybe in this room, maybe not, whose souls torment them, who have great regrets and great turbulence. They didn't achieve what they wanted to. They couldn't do what they wanted to. They resent and they regret, and it tears them up inside. Some people say, well, I'll just be frivolous. After all, that seems like a fun way to pass what a life is. But he says those people will be just as unfulfilled. Because there's nothing in that, right? He says, I ventured to tempt my flesh with wine and to grasp folly, right? While letting my mind direct with wisdom to the end that I might learn which of the two was better for mortals to practice in their few days of life under heaven. Right? He said, I tried to do both because I'm trying to tell you what the best thing to do is, and we only have so much time. It's true of all of us. He says, I multiplied my possessions, expanded my projects. I built myself houses and planted vineyards for myself. I laid out gardens and groves in which I planted every kind of fruit tree, which again, very special for the time. Normally, you couldn't have every kind of fruit tree, I guess. I constructed pools of water, enough to irrigate a forest shooting up with trees. I bought male and female slaves. Cool, I guess. We'll just gloss over that, I think. And I acquired stewards. I also acquired more cattle, both herds and flocks, than all who were before me in Jerusalem. I further amassed, he really wants you to get that he was a really rich and like, if you could be happy by having things, he should have been.
He should have been. Yeah.
If that would have done it, he'd have done it. He had all the things. He even had people, which you can't even have anymore. And it didn't make him happy. Not that you should want to have people. It was a thing back then. You were allowed, anyway. Says, I further amassed silver and gold and treasures of kings and provinces. He made a whole ballroom full of gold. And this isn't a comment on the current president. It literally was a ballroom of gold Solomon had built. And I got myself male and female singers, as well as the luxuries of commoners, coffers and coffers of them. Right? So I got everything. I got the things that made commoners happy. I got people who could sing special things, which was the only great form of entertainment, were plays and singers and musicians, in those days. So he's saying, I got all of these things. I had a life of restless luxury, essentially, he says. Right? He's the modern day, he's the billionaire. He goes places on his plane. He eats in different cities. He only has the best of everything. He says in verse 9, thus I gained more wealth than anyone before me in Jerusalem. In addition, my wisdom remained with me. I withheld from my eyes nothing they asked for and denied myself no enjoyment. Rather, I got enjoyment out of all of my wealth. And that was all I got out of my wealth.
Enjoyment.
Yes. It made him happy, but that's all he got. Then my thoughts turned to all the fortune my hands had built up, to the wealth I had acquired and won. And it was Hevel and pursuit of Ruach. There was no real value under the sun.
I'm thinking of Warren Buffett.
You're thinking of Warren Buffett?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, that's what I'm saying, like a billionaire. He's saying, look at all the money I accumulated, all the things, houses and planes and yeah.
Yeah, but as opposed to most of the other people in this situation, he lives in a house that he's been in for 50 years. He goes down to the neighborhood deli or whatever for a Coke and a hamburger.
Yes, true. He does,
as opposed to Bill Gates.
Well,
true, I guess. I mean, again, it's like anyone who flies on their own time is kind of, I'm beyond feeling that they're a man of the people. If they don't have to wait, if they don't even have to wait in the first class line, I'm not. It's great that he lives in an old house. But the point being, you're right on your point, which is the amount of money you have and the quality of the materials you're consuming do not impact your soul's level of contentment. That part is absolutely true. And I believe Warren Buffett knows this, which is part of why he is content with his, because the rabbis will in the end say, in Pirkei Avot, they say, who is content? Or who is, right, exactly, right, yeah. He who is satisfied with his own portion.
Yeah.
And to be fair, that's true whether you're a billionaire or not a billionaire. You must find contentment in your own portion, or you will not find contentment in your soul.
That's what Sam was saying about acceptance.
Yeah.
Yes.
The rich man is he or she who has enough.
Right.
Because it's their wishes that can.
Exactly. You can decide in the end, if you have the willpower, to decide what's really enough for you.
And then you're not striving after
things you don't need. Right. And I also know of people who climb that ladder, who, they've seemingly made their purpose climbing the ladder. And that's okay. I mean, it's not, I think Kohelet would say that's Hevel, but you know,
But it could be fun.
it could be fun.
But it is hevel.
As he said, he had fun being frivolous. He said he had fun with it.
Sure.
It just fades and becomes, eventually your soul pops back up again and says, "Hey, I'm still not satisfied." But it is fun. He's not saying he's not saying it's not fun, right? At no point was he like, I didn't have a good time with all my vineyards and singers and whatnot. Solomon also had 1,000 wives for.
Well, if you look at the Roman Empire,
Don't know how content it made him.
The rich had everything they wanted, and they were unhappy. They really weren't that. It didn't mean much, and looking back, it meant nothing.
Yeah, true enough. So he turned his thoughts to all that fortune and the wealth he had, and he realized it really wasn't anything. He said, "For what will the man be like who will succeed the one who is ruling over what was built up long ago?" Right? He's like, I'm building up something. But what if my descendants are bad at managing it? And it all dissolves to nothing, as it did. That happened. Right? Not even that long. We've been reading in the Book of Kings about how they had to strip all the gold out of his big fancy ballroom to pay tribute when they got beat. And out of the temple too. So, right? So he's saying, look at all I built. But it's going to go away because you don't build money forever. Money is not an eternal, wealth is not eternal, right? That's what he's trying to get down to. What is eternal? He's like, this doesn't mean anything. Then he said, my thoughts also turn, this is a separate thought, but the same verse. My thoughts also turn to appraising wisdom and debauchery and folly. I found that wisdom is superior to folly, as light is superior to darkness. So again, he's making a moral, I just want to stop here to say, as a comment to what we talked about before, he's not saying that there's no, even if everything is hevel, he's not saying there isn't a moral difference in them. Wisdom is superior to folly, as light is superior to darkness. Right? He's being very clear. Better to be wise than to be foolish and ignorant. It just won't save you. It won't calm your soul. It won't satisfy you. Being a smarty pants isn't enough. I love being a smarty pants personally. It's one of my favorite things about myself. But it won't save me. The only thing that will satisfy my soul isn't that. I won't look back and say, I'm glad I was such a smarty pants.
Hevel.
Right.
Or Hevel.
Right. Havel, but Hevel is it's fine.
Havel.
They say Havel. No, it's not the definite article. The hey is part of the word. It's right. It's Havel, but not ha as the definite article.
So
You're
separating
first syllable.
wisdom from knowledge.
He does separate them but in this case, they're both Hevel. One is actually, I think, more damaging. Knowledge is probably more damaging than discernment, but that's my guess at a moral weight, because he might actually say that the pain of discernment or the anger of discernment is worse than the pain of knowledge.
Your mind could be tied up with the anger and the attempt to get to something valuable.
Yeah, but I would say in the end they're both hevel. Like he's not making, again, he does make a moral difference. He's just not focusing on that. And we often do. And that's fine, we can. But he's not. And I just say that so that you understand when he's pushing forward with what he's trying to talk about, he'll leave that thought behind because that was a passing thought about moral difference. Whereas the important thing is what he's real. So he found that wisdom is superior to folly, as light is superior to darkness. The wise have their eyes in their head, whereas fools walk in darkness. But I also realized that the same fate awaits them all. So I reflected. Oh, I think, okay, Jane had to leave. Okay, no worries. So I reflected, the fate of the fool is also destined for me. To what advantage then have I been wise? And I came to the conclusion that that too was Havel. Because the wise, just like the foolish, are not remembered forever. For as the succeeding days roll by, both are forgotten. Alas, the wise die just like the foolish. And so I loathed life, for I was distressed by all that goes on under the sun, because everything is Havel and pursuit of Ruach. Right? They're saying here, pursuit, or they're really saying like herding cats is what he's saying. Herding wind is what he, right? And you can't herd the wind any more than you can herd cats. Probably actually harder than cats, because cats are at least tangible. Like, right? You can't imagine me, I'm going to herd the wind. If you did that and you're like, may the wind take you, like you're a fool. Like, it's like, you can't do that. Anyway, so he's saying it's so useless that's what this is like. So he's like, but this, so I loathed life. So too I loathed all the wealth that I was gaining under the sun. For I shall leave it to the man who will succeed me. And who knows whether he will be wise or foolish. And he will control all the wealth that I gathered by toil and wisdom. Can you just hit the side button? Just hit the side button. The side button on the right. There you go. Doing that once will silence it.
Okay, good enough.
There you go. Good to know.
Right.
And who knows whether my successor will be wise or foolish. And he will control all the wealth that I gain by toil and wisdom under the sun. That too, Gamzeh Havel. This too is Havel, right? And so I came to view with despair, caused my heart to despair of all the toil that I had done under the sun, of all the gains, of all the changes I had made with my efforts. For sometimes a person whose fortune was made with wisdom, knowledge, and skill must hand it on to be the portion of somebody who did not toil for it. That too is futile and a great evil.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
This is Shlomo.
Yep.
He built the temple. Was that also of him?
Well, he says he realizes this after he did all the building. Remember, he's old now.
Well, yeah,
he's looking back at his life. He didn't think it was Havel when he did it.
Well, I understand.
Yeah. But he does now at the end of his life. And he's saying, now that I'm, towards the end of my life, I'm like, well, again, he's like, they're going to strip it. It's going to get destroyed. Like, he's like, so yeah, he's saying, yeah, it was probably for me. He's not saying for God it was nothing, but for him. Again, this is about the satisfaction of his own soul. This isn't about, was God happy with it? He knows God was happy with it. Net, he's glad he did it. The great evil is not in having done what he was told in building the temple. The great evil is that sometimes the great unworthy will inherit great wealth and fortune and power, and they will be unworthy, and it will cause problems. And so in this way, his accumulating wealth might have actually been evil, because he'll pass it on to people who will abuse others with it.
We're reading in Kings.
Exactly, and we're reading in Kings.
Yeah.
That's exactly basically what happens eventually.
Yeah.
To be fair, he has a couple of good descendants that do some good stuff with it.
Yeah,
Not nearly as bad as what happens up north.
They don't save the whole thing.
But they don't save the whole thing, and his temple is destroyed. So later there's another temple, but it's not built on the same site as his temple, for the record. So Shlomo's temple was good for what it was good for, but can you even go there today? And no. So it's buried under thousands of years of rubble. So that's what he's talking about. So looking back at his life, it's a little disappointing. It's not like the gardens of where, it's not like the pyramids that still stand today. It's, anyway, he's like, again, he's looking at this kingdom's going to fall apart too. All these things he worked for are in the end, it's a fact. They're Havel. And he now has to deal with that. And that's what this is about. So the grave evil of inheritance by unworthy unworthy children who are spoiled and didn't work for. I mean, that's essentially also what he's saying is like the problem is they didn't have to. Accumulating things is hard. Inheriting things is not hard, and anyone can do it, including dummies. So sometimes one of my descendants, he's like just on average is going to end up being a dummy, and then what do I do? Right. He says, for what do mortals get? For all the toiling and worrying they do, tachat hashemesh, under the sun. All their days, their thoughts are grief and heartache. We worry all the time about money and bills, about health and happiness, about relationships. All we do is grief and heartache. And even at night, their mind has no respite. And this too, Gamzeh Hevelhu. It's Hevel, but you're still doing it. How bad is that, he's saying? He's saying, look at it like a neutral observer. You suffer all day, and you even suffer in stress dreams at night. But it's futile. Because the thing my mother keeps trying to tell me that I also don't listen to. Worrying will not help. Worrying doesn't change anything. But he says this is the condition of humans, to sit around and worry and stress and preoccupy, such that they spend their life doing it. Now we might be onto something. There is nothing worthwhile for mortals but to eat and drink and afford themselves enjoyment with their means. And even that, I noted, comes from God. Before we get into his explanation of this, does anyone have any thoughts? I heard a couple things, and it's a big comment, and he's going to go into like exactly what he means, but
Why bother eating and drinking if all you're gonna do
because then
is-
you die.
Yeah, what? But why survive if you're only gonna suffer and then die in the end?
Well, I think what he's actually saying is to adjust your expectation, kind of what Sam was saying earlier about your will for things and whatnot. I think what he's saying is human mortals, adjust, the first thing you should know about yourself is that you're mortal, adjust your expectations of life so that you design it around what will help you fulfill the soul's, it's not me, I don't know, the soul's desire, the soul, what the soul will truly be content with. And that starts with to eat and drink. In other words, prioritize that you won't be stressed about your daily. In today's world, we'd say, make sure your house payment isn't too high, make sure your rent payment isn't too, keep your rent under a quarter of your monthly, whatever the wisdom is around. He's saying, set yourself up economically so that you're not stressed about it, essentially. Eat, drink, make sure you've always got enough. And afford yourself, here it says, afford yourself enjoyment or indulge your soul through toil. So with what you work very hard for, are you heading out? All right, thank you, Lindsay. With what you work very hard for, enjoy things. Have moments of happiness. If that means putting on a party for your friends for a birthday, do it. If it means going on a cruise, do that. You work hard. And you should use your off time and the money that you make off of what you do and accumulate to restore yourself in some way.
Can I ask, isn't that also Havel?
Everything is Hevel.
Yeah, great.
There's no way to defeat Hevel. If you're
you
looking to
enjoy the
defeat Hevel,
process.
you already lost the game.
All right.
He's telling you that already.
Oh.
The hint was the giving it away at the beginning. There is no defeating Hevel. Everything is Hevel.
Okay.
This is how to live your life with a soul that is not ravaged every day. That is possible. He's playing the game of what we used to call as politics, the art of the possible. He doesn't want you believing you can do things you cannot do.
And to stop suffering because you're not chasing after.
Right. If you think you can stop the world's suffering, he's saying you are being stupid.
Yeah.
And you're just going to cause yourself heartache because you're not going to be able to do that. People are still going to suffer. That doesn't mean don't give the allotted amount, the 10% of your income to charity that God requires. It's not saying don't do that. You should still do that. But you should also not preoccupy yourself and every day say, oh, I just got off work. I could have a nice meal with my family, enjoy something, maybe go bowling with some friends, and make my contributions to charity. Or I could sit here and think about how sad some people are that they don't. And he's saying, I see why you think the second one might be somehow morally good, but you're actually being an idiot.
Yeah.
Because you're not helping anyone. You're really not helping yourself, and you could be helping yourself. You could be doing better than you are.
Suffering for no purpose
Right.
is stupid.
Right, is what he's saying. And sometimes people think there's a moral value to suffering without purpose. And he's saying, no, we've never thought that as Jews. There's no requirement that you suffer beyond what's imposed on you by life, which, to be fair, for Jews has often been a lot. But not for him. He's king in Israel. And, and anyway, so, and so he's saying, when you do this, it's not when you enjoy yourself. This is a gift of God. God made this possible because God wants you to live this way. This is the path, essentially, Kohelet is saying. This is what Kohelet has discovered with all of Kohelet's wisdom is this path. It's not exactly the way we say to do things today, but it's what worked for him. So he's going to go into what this exactly is. He says, for who eats and who enjoys but myself? Right? This is all about me, but not in a bad way. This is just, right? Who's going to eat my food for me? Like, this is things I have to do to survive. And who's going to enjoy things? If not me? Not just because he's a king, but because you should be sad that everyone else is sad and therefore you be sad and never enjoy anything? He says, no, that's stupid. Who eats and who enjoys but himself? Of course he must. One, namely, who pleases God, is given the wisdom and shrewdness for enjoyment. Or the wisdom and knowledge. In this case, we're getting right. Sorry, my stomach. While one who displeases is given the urge to gather and amass, only for handing on to someone who is pleasing to God. That too is futile and pursuit of wind. Right? Because it could be. It doesn't really, we can't determine what he's saying here, I think. We cannot determine the good and the bad based off who's smart or who's wealthy or we can't tell these things because it could be that a smart person had a bad heir. It could be that a bad person had a good heir. And maybe they were a bad person who had a lot of money, and then they have a good kid who is really like he's saying these combinations come in all combinations: good, bad, smart, dumb, wise, unable to discern. These are all separate and all, you know, their own thing. And therefore, of course, amassing possessions. In other words, this is very interesting for a king to say. Building a dynasty is useless, essentially, he's saying. Why? Because you can't know. It's up to God in the end. He'll have a kid, and that kid will rule because he did a good job. But maybe that kid does a bad job, or doesn't rule well, or turns to foreign gods, or marries someone he's not supposed to, and they put shrines in the temple or something. And then God might take it all away from his child. And he's like, I know I could be only a generation away, separated from having it all taken away. Sure enough, he's not that off by that many.
Yeah.
He's only about 10 generations off from losing everything.
Well, he lost Israel the next turn of the.
Well, yes, that's true. His child lost Israel lost half the kingdom immediately. But the rest of it hangs on for another couple hundred years, for another 280 years almost, 274 years.
Babylon.
Right, yeah. And no, they keep hanging on there until about 586. Okay, do we have any? I just want to get to, there's technically the last verse of chapter 3 is the last verse of this thing, but we put it in chapter 3 because it sounds like it goes with what we're going to talk about next week, which is the Carpenter's song that you've all heard before. A time for this and a time for that and a time for everything under heaven. Because of course this verse is a season lechol zman ve'et lechol chayfetz tachat hashamayim. Right? There is a lechol zman ve'et. There is a time and appointed season, and for everything there is a time and appointed season, and for everything there is an experience or opportunity under heaven. Which is where we get to this idea that, again, I wanted to get out of the gloom of, and again, like, you see everything as Hevel, and you see that negatively. I can hear that when you talk about it. He's not, it's not negative. It's just what it is. He's saying, look, you can see it negatively or positively. You could see it positively, especially if you were more on the hedonistic side, not even hedonism, but like just in a sense of using everything in one generation. Like if you weren't someone who was capable of or interested in these passing things on and buildings, you might have no problem with his assertion that everything is Hevel. He doesn't assign it a moral weight. It's okay that everything is Hevel. Does he wish it wasn't? Probably, but it's also the condition that human beings exist in and is not going to change. Solomon is smart enough to know that, and he has everything at stake. If I don't build a great dynasty, that's probably okay because I was never expected to build a great dynasty. If Shlomo doesn't build a great dynasty, that's a problem because he's the son of David. And yet he can say, this is the way it is. I'm smart enough to know. Doesn't mean he didn't build what he was supposed to build. Doesn't mean he's not going to do stuff. But he understands towards the end of his life that there really is a path. And that everything will happen in your lifetime. That's what this next section is really all about. It's not really just about, yes, we know, a time for planting, a time for reaping, a time for war, and a time for peace. Yeah, no, we get it, right? But you really have to get it, because what it's really about is that all of these things are just gonna happen. You're gonna live your life thinking, how can I avoid bad things happening to me? And Kohelet's like, you worrying about it is worse than accepting that it's going to happen. If you just said, yes, these bad things will eventually happen to me and everyone I know, but in different times and amounts and whatever, and the best thing we can do is all be together while we can and eat and drink and enjoy things. Kohelet said, then you get it. You got it. You're good. You're as wise as any human being that's ever lived. because you're as wise as me, is what he would say. Not me. Not me. But you know, that's what he would say. He'd say, if you can get that, then you can get it. And that's all there is to get. Everything else is what you choose to build on top of that, of your solid and comfortable soul. And if you want to pursue Hevel beyond it, just don't let it ruin you. Just don't let it destroy you. Go ahead and write your articles, you silly rabbi. Go ahead and write your and see your patients and write and try and make a difference in whatever ways you want to make a difference. Go for it. But if you're not building on this basis, if that's the basis, if you're building on Hevel,
it's missed.
Right, then he's like, then you're going to have nothing in the end. Because anything you try and put on top of it will collapse when it eventually... And to be fair, he's saying that again because he's older. What's the thing? He's saying, even if you make your whole life your career, for instance, oh, you were so accomplished, you'll retire one day, God willing. And then you won't have that anymore. It was Hevel in the end. Did you build something or did you not? I hope you did, because it's gone now, right? I don't mean to say this to be cruel to anyone. It's just, it's the way it is. And he wants to build this very basic level, and you can put anything on top of it, including a wonderful career in which you help many, many, many people on their individual basis who will soon die. Sorry. No, because this is why I have to get back to his point, or I'm negating his point, which I don't want to do. Anyway, go ahead and come back at me.
Okay. I understand his point, but I still disagree with it.
Okay, good.
Okay, not me, but Sam and Irv helped many, many people. They've retired, but what they did was accomplish good.
Yes.
And the good that they accomplished will help their kids and their kids after them. Will they die? Yes. Will somebody remember it? Maybe not after so many years.
Sure.
But they still did good in the world.
First of all, I agree with you
There are
on the first point. They certainly did good. And that is good. That is certainly good. I agree with the rest of that, which is that also everyone will forget everything I've ever written.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything about their careers. I'll say about mine.
Yeah.
One day, everyone will. Someday, it might be the day after I die. It might be, if it's like Rambam, God willing, it'll be 1,000 years after they die, maybe even longer. But eventually,
It'll be forgotten.
it'll be forgotten.
All
So,
things will-
and guess what? Everyone they ever treated, you're right, they will also die. And that's okay, because what we're building the foundation of is that you understand that you did those things and they were good, but that's not going to make you content in your own soul. The good you did was good, is good, but that's not going to help you, which sounds counterproductive. Oh, I did good, I'll be happy about it. Kohelet's saying no. The good you do isn't what makes you happy necessarily. To be fair, he says the good you do is, although the good you do is tied to the mitzvot you do more than, and to be fair, saving lives is a mitzvah. So you guys are probably higher than most people because you save lives and whatnot, and treat people in that way. He's not really talking specifically to doctors like I kind of am here. Right, yeah. He's not speaking specifically to doctors. He's also talking to rabbis and car mechanics and, other people. I agree with you. Doctors do probably an inordinate amount of good for their share of the for their communities and all that. And while good is not Hevel, the soul will not be satisfied with just with the mundaneness of it. Again, saving lives. If there's a case where you saved a life, then that is obviously such a good that is something that endures. I have to make a more general statement, not just for the internet, but I have to make a more general statement because that's what Kohelet is doing. Maybe after he wrote it, all the doctors in the kingdom came and said, "Hey, wait a second, I also do good."
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But like, you know, it's like but you get what I'm saying. Like I'm saying I hope to do good in the sense of helping people, both in understandings and in their connection to God.
Right. And that's worth something. Isn't
Well,
it?
I mean, it's worth something, but it's still Hevel. I need you to separate Hevel from moral worth. I need everyone to separate it. Really, no. It's still Hevel. It's good. This is good. God loves that we're doing this. It's still Hevel.
Is it fair to say you can't freeze any moment? You can't freeze.
Yes, exactly.
But it's a mist. But can you enjoy the mist?
Yes, of course. Because he's saying if you're doing good, your soul will enjoy those things, and you will enjoy. That will be the getting the moments of enjoyment from your toil,
Yes.
not just in going on cruises and stuff, though that's good too, but also in if you saved a life, you will that will live in your soul and will be something where you're like, yes, look at how good I like. Look at this good I did. This act like that's a different situation, but also I just, you know, it's like I'm not trying to insult anybody, but like see that not every ounce of paperwork everybody does is saving a life, right? Like I mean, come on, like let's be real.
There's an old statement.
I just saw my doctor this morning. I hope he saved my life, but I think I'll probably live another year.
There
I hope.
is a statement about medicine. Medicine is a behavior humans engage in while God treats the patient.
I mean, sometimes I think medicine fixes stuff, but I don't know. I mean, I think there's
It
active
can-
ingredients, but
Temporarily.
well, I mean, everything's. I mean, temporarily in the sense that, yeah, again, I'm not going to live to be 500. Sure.
Well, no, it'd be a pain in the neck too. All of your joints would feel like hell.
Yeah, that's the thing. I literally said I had my physical my annual physical this morning, and my doctor's like, "How are you feeling?" He's like, "You lost a lot of weight in the last year. How are you feeling?" And I said, "Honestly, I don't know if I feel. I weighed a lot more at 30, but I also think I might have felt a little better. I wasn't so creaky and stuff. I'm approaching 40 now." And he was like, "Yeah, okay, I get." I said, "It's kind of like the graph where it's like one thing is going down in quality and the other thing is coming up in quality, and I'm not sure that the crossover has been achieved yet." Yeah, it's just what it is.
Okay, so we meet next week at 11.
Okay, one sec. I'm going to say thank you everyone on YouTube.